Future-Proof is sponsored by Concordia Dental Healthcare, expert care you can trust.
If you're one of these people now in the midst of coping with stress as a business owner, maybe as an employee, or even as a student, or if you have students within your household who are struggling with stress, then I do have a stress handout which you are more than welcome to email and ask me for. I can send it off as a PDF, and it has a couple of great worksheets where you can identify either on your own or within a team or even from the boardroom where those stress triggers are. Actually name them, if you like, call them out. Very often we keep too many things in our heads and we don't actually articulate what those stress problems are. We then look at what the triggers are, and you can actually work then on strategic resolution, if you like, as to how to avoid those triggers. It's well recognised as humans, we actually need stress. If we don't have it, we'll create it. But this is a healthy way of coping. Hello and welcome back to Future Proof. Thank you for watching Sarah Hopwood as I continue this interview with Camille Pearson, who heads up the Float Spa in Hove. And in the first half, we were acknowledging, first of all, today is World Mental Health Day, a very, very important time for everybody. This programme is targeted towards business owners, employees, and indeed students. And mental health, I think, applies to each and every one of us. And going into the break, Camille was reflecting about why people come through the Float Spa and acknowledging that a lot of it is stress related, and she used the word stimulation addicts, and I thought it was absolutely brilliant. And she started to talk about the interruptions of phones and what have you, but I think it's a bigger subject, so stay with us now as I continue this interview. Camille, thank you so much for staying with me.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Really good to be here. So yes, we talked about stimulation addict, and I know you talked about phones, but there's a larger issue, isn't there, about our internal natural clock and how we're interfering with it. Can you say more about that?
Sure. I mean, if you think about how we've evolved over time, there's advances in technology, a huge one, advances in electricity. So if you think, there's a reason we have daylight saving hours, which is going to change in October, and our body's natural cycle is to wake up when it's sunlight and to go to sleep when it's dark. With the interruption or introduction of electricity, we can now stay awake all night if we want. We've got all night theatres, businesses all night, night workers, shift workers. There's so much more interruption now, and I feel that does interfere massively with the way our body's natural cycles are meant to be.
Which is tied up with the resting, if you like, that the Float Spa provides. We need to rest, and there are sleep patterns. Many of us know about these sleep patterns that exist, and the importance of, if you like, fulfilling those proper sleep patterns. But talking about stress, we also acknowledge stress is important. As human beings, we need stress. But I loved your description about a cup full of stress, and what could you say about moving from, if you like, a bad state of stress to a healthy state of stress?
So, stress is commonplace. We are, we as humans, we have a natural amount of stress. If the fight or flight mode, most animals and mammals, they do have stress in their life, whether it's hunting for food or whatever, and that's normal. However, what happens is if you're so stressed due to work or family or whatever, if you build this bucket, and if you can imagine a bucket, a stress bucket as I call it, and you put lots of different stress levels in which are already residing in your life, and then an issue happens, you're late, there's traffic, something then starts building up, so your stress bucket then becomes fuller and fuller and fuller, so therefore you're not able to kind of let go of it, and then you might go home after an incredibly stressful day and then shout at everyone around you, and then your children then become stressed. It's just this whole cycle, so it's important to get the levels down, so when something bad does happen, is you're able to kind of move on from it.
And I cover stress in stuff that I deliver, bringing in emotional intelligent thinking. And one of the things too is, some people thrive on stress. So number one, we've got to change our attitude towards the word stress. It doesn't have to be a dirty word. We have to manage the triggers is a big thing. So what is it that triggers our stress? And if we can work out what our personal triggers are, because what you would react to and what I would react to are two completely different things, and then try and offset flicking the switch on those triggers. So if traffic is it is for us a trigger. So Paul and I will leave at 4 a.m. to go somewhere just to avoid the traffic, so that switch is not flicked. And fight, flight and freeze is a big thing about stress. And the other thing too, if you ever wonder if you are stressed, is typically we tend to overreact to all the really small things.
Yeah.
And then when somebody says, oh, there's a fire in the building, they go, yeah, we'll sort it. We called the fire brigade, they'll be along. And so a typical, if you're ever wondering, is we overreact to small things and underreact to the larger things. So you also talked about drinking and that the figures have gone down. Can you say more about that?
Well, so last year's figures for alcohol consumption in the UK had actually dropped for the first time in God knows how many years. My suggestion, I kind of wondered whether this could be kind of the younger generation, this Generation Z, or that have been around social media and technology, and that they are becoming obsessed with maybe going to the gym and the way that they look more than going out and binge drinking, which is what I used to do when I was young. What we used to do, or what happened with the younger this middle generation. So it's like, is the impact of social media causing lifestyle changes? Is it affecting alcohol consumption? The way people now look is becoming so paramount because everything is so publicly available on social media. This selfie obsession where everyone is uploading selfies constantly and, you know, giving the information out. It's like they are waiting for that.
And there are initiatives now to control that. I know people have been banging on the door of Facebook, but the other thing too is we all know that any form of stress has a direct impact on business. So you talked about, and if we could just talk about that for a moment, people off sick with stress, those numbers have increased. Can you share your knowledge on that?
Yeah, so as an employer, I have full-time members of staff that work for me, and as an employer of a small business, the statistics are, if a person is signed off work, an employee is signed off work with stress, anxiety or depression, they're likely to take up to 26 days off sick per year.
Can we just put that into weeks? That's 5 weeks plus your holiday.
Yeah, that's a lot of time.
Plus if you are maternity or paternity leave. And the other thing too, because we are talking about future proofing, is to always remember a robot will never go off sick.
No, of course.
You know, that's quite a big thing. So if we're future proofing our jobs, future proofing our reputation, then taking care of our own mental health and well-being to make sure not just that we're at work, but something I want to ask you is, I also talk about people who are physically at work but they're mentally absent.
Yeah.
Have you witnessed that yourself? Is it something you're aware of yourself?
Well, I personally had it. When I went back to work after my daughter was ill, I just was almost like a shell of my former self. I just could function, but just about, and it was almost like it was the first time I'd ever started failing at a job because I just was there.
But you weren't there.
I wasn't there.
Yeah.
So by having the tools and things that you can do to improve on it, and employers should be looking at tools that they can help their staff, look at the warning signs, is there things that they can be doing? There's so many things out there that employers now that do need to take a little bit more initiative and help their employees prevent this from happening.
That is happening more and more. I mean, I was actually with a very large corporate the other day talking about the merits of emotional intelligence, and I know there are mindful people who know the subject of mindfulness, and these experts are being drawn into business, and the main reason why is because business owners have now realised it is costing you far more money on your bottom line with people being present but absent, the 25, 6 days off sick or what have you, rather than investing in a relatively small proportion of finance and resources to actually make sure people stay at work and they are mentally and physically able. If you could give a piece of advice for your younger self, because you've got young children, what piece of advice would you give yourself?
I work a lot with my children about self-care. So I was taught by my mother to brush my hair, brush my teeth, wash, go to the toilet, all these basic essentials. And one of the things that my mother never encouraged me was to look after my mental health. And as someone that has struggled with it in the past, I now see it as my opportunity to teach that to my children. My children do lots of yoga, we do meditations with them, all these small things. And I'm not saying we spend hours in a state of zen. We don't. We just do small things daily and change minor practices and talk a lot about it.
I love the minor bit because, and we are going to be finishing now, but if you think of a railway track like that, you literally adjust it by a few centimetres, so the minor little bit, but as you go down the track, then the growth and the change actually just becomes so much larger and broader. Camille, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. If somebody wants to find you, how do they find you?
You can find me on the Float Spa website, so it's thefloatspa.co.uk, and we're on 3rd Avenue in Hove.
Fantastic. So today, as we said, is World Mental Health Day, and we just hope that you are maybe you've grabbed a couple of nuggets of something to think about, so that you join us as we can all continue to look after our mental health and also look after other people as well. Have a fab week, and do join me again here on Future Proof. Thank you.